Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and today we're here for my reading vlog for Dune by Frank Herbert.
Oh hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
In this vlog, you will see me very excited to read this book and have some differing opinions at the end. This read along was co-hosted by me and my friend Danny over at Current Chapter, so I will leave a link to her channel down below as well. For a small summary about the book, this book follows a boy named Paul Atreides on a planet of Arrakis that is home to the most coveted spice melange that induces its consumers in a drug-like stasis. When House Atreides is betrayed, Paul sets off on this journey to become more than he could have ever imagined. So before we go into this vlog, I do want to preface this by saying that these are my opinions. We can be friends and not like the same book. If you disagree with me, feel free to be civil down below in the comments. Let me know how you felt about this book, and I hope you enjoy the vlog. Hello! So it is officially 1/4 of the month of October done, and that means that I am 1/4 of the way through this behemoth, Dune by Frank Herbert. So I am up to page 150 at this point, and not a lot has happened that you don't already know from the synopsis. So basically, within these first 150 pages, we really meet what seem to be the crucial players of the book. We meet Paul, we meet his parents, we meet the people who surround him, and we do meet the people who end up betraying Paul's family. So I have some thoughts. I guess my first thought really is that I don't understand why this book... okay, I don't know how to word this. I don't think the writing in this book is as solid as I think I was expecting from such a revered science fiction classic. It reads a bit like Shakespeare, and I don't mean this in a good way. Like, the dialogue feels extremely Shakespearean. So because Shakespeare was written as a play, and we can't really get into the minds of characters, so we don't really know like intentions and stuff like that. So a lot is told through dialogue and is told through side monologues. We don't know like what they're doing in a play. Frank Herbert does something like really weird where the dialogue between characters is filled with intent, and he's directly telling us the intent of the characters. If the intent is the opposite of what they are saying, then Frank Herbert will make sure to tell you in a side monologue type of thought process the character's real intention. So for example, there is one specific character in the book who will betray the Atreides family, and instead of it coming as like a surprise or a shock to readers because we've liked this character and we enjoy the way his interactions are with the family, let's say, he basically says like,
"Why do I stand here torturing myself and torturing this poor lad,
Paul,
though he does not know it? Oi, damn, those Harkonnen beasts. Why did they choose me for their abomination?"
And in the chapter previously, you're being told by these like truth witches, kind of. They're like the witches of this world, and they're able to tell when people are lying or predict the future kind of thing. And so they know that this family is going to be betrayed. And then you find out the chapter later who's betraying them. So I feel like Frank Herbert is kind of writing this book, making sure that every single person who reads this book does not use critical thinking and lets him tell you exactly what's going to happen. So I am not enjoying this writing style, and I hope it gets better, or at least that I get used to it and I'm able to envelop myself in the story more.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb.
But so far, those are my initial thoughts. Like I said, nothing's really happened. There have been some like assassination attempts, some conspiring, but other than that, it's been extremely surface level. And I think if you've watched my videos for a while, you know that I like my writing to be very flowery. I like my plots to be very convoluted. I really like seeing the authors not baby their readers and really put trust in the readers to figure things out. Like, I don't know, we'll see. let's chat. What we won't chat about is this huge cold sore on my mouth. We're just gonna pretend that she doesn't exist. Let's ignore her. She's just living her life, interrupting my video sessions. I'm apologizing for this. She won't go away. But what I do want to talk about is Dune. At this point, I am 230 pages. I'm really like not liking the book. The writing is, I think, really bad. I'm sorry. I think the writing is horrible. I'm so confused, and the way the story is structured is very lackluster. I think the this omniscient like narrator who just knows everything, and we're inside everybody's heads at all time. There's no notice of when we're switching. Like we hear everybody's thoughts. I don't know. I find is this quality literature, or is it just quality literature because a lot of men read it at the right time? And like most of our literary canon, it's deemed a classic just because it was read at one point by a lot of guys. Controversial opinion, but that's how I'm feeling right now. I'm really hoping that the book gets better, because for 200 pages now, I repeat, 200 pages, all we've done is met people and been spoiled about something that just happened 200 pages later. So at page 5, I knew this was going to happen, and it literally just happened. I'm so frustrated. So I'm going to read the next 80 pages because we're dividing it into parts. Today is the last day to read the second part. As you can tell, I leave everything to the last minute. And I'm going to try to read these last like 70 pages to get to page 300, and then I can push this aside into the dust for another week until I freak out and have to read 150 pages in one day again. So there's a part of the book that just really pissed me off. So listen, okay, I get that this book was written in the 60s, and I get that to a patriarchal society, women need to not have opinions. I understand. I get this, okay? However, when you are writing about a world where there are fucking worms coming out of the ground, ready to eat people, you would think that maybe adding more than 2 female characters to your book could, wild concept, I know, but that there could be more. I don't know. That's my first thought. And then additionally, in this world that these worms come out of the sand to eat you for stealing a spice, that women could be treated just like the slightest bit better. You know, like maybe just have like the slightest of agency, just a tad. Like maybe we make decisions for ourselves just a little bit, you know, like just a minor bit. There is like one main female character at this point right now, and she's Paul Atreides' mom, Lady Jessica. From what I understand at this point in the book, they're like separated from everybody, and it's just them two. So they're trying to kind of figure out what the hell happened, what's happening, why have they been betrayed, that kind of thing. So essentially, Paul is like explaining what he assumes is happening and why they've been betrayed. And obviously he's right, because he's the freaking messiah in this book, you know, whatever. So he's going on and on and on about what he thinks is happening. And his mom, Lady Jessica, who is a concubine to the king, okay, she's not even a queen, essentially, like she doesn't know this political shit, okay? And like it's not her fault. Like she was like forced and sent to the Duke to have his babies, like, you know? And so she's just asking her fucking intelligent son, who she birthed into this world, a question. And it's either Paul's thought process or just the omniscient narration itself, but it says she was so slow. Bro, that is your mother. That is your mom. And then when she tells him like, oh, probably, maybe, but maybe you should just like relax. Like maybe this is not the situation. Like let's not jump to the conclusions. You know, as like any mother who's trying to give advice to her son would do. And he's like, leave me alone. So it's like, bro, chill the fuck out. Holy shit. I know I'm making a big deal about this, but it's just a true testament to his character. Essentially, Paul doesn't approve or necessarily believe in his mother and believe in her capabilities and her cognitive understanding of the world. That makes me pause, because it wasn't that hard to, first of all, not include that line, and second of all, not have the son lose it on his mother for just trying to get a clarification on her son's thought process, who will be the Duke. You know, she is gauging how he's understanding the world. I'm going on a tangent, but this is just because it is the writing and the treatment that Lady Jessica is receiving throughout the book. And I'm not even saying like Lady Jessica is like this fantastic character, but really she's the only female character so far that I can cling to. So I'm gonna defend her. For 200 pages, nothing has happened. And this is the one element of the story that has made me like pause and have a reaction to. And it's not a good one. I don't understand why this book is so revered. And something really astronomically great needs to happen in these next 400 pages. And like with Frank Herbert's record, 400 pages is not enough to develop a plot. But something really magical needs to happen for me to be like, wow, this is a book. This does deserve. Because there are classic books that I don't necessarily enjoy, but I can sit there and understand why they were so impactful at the time and what themes and elements they were bringing forth to the readers at the time to make them understand and entertain, where I find I have not done any of those three things in the last 2 weeks. Perchance, I'm being a bit mean and maybe a bit critical. I just don't think he's a good writer, so. So I just got to page 300 of Dune, which means that I am halfway through this book. My opinions have not really changed since I updated you 70 pages previously. Some shit has happened. I mean, people have created sides. I don't have words because I don't know what the fuck is going on in this book. Like, I know what the fuck is going on, like, plot-wise, but the overall plot, I have zero concept of what is happening. Like, things just happen, essentially. Like, but one thing I do want to talk about is more the writing style of the book. I think the writing is not good. There are just like a lot of colloquialisms in this book. So this was first published in 1965. And I think you can tell, like, there are parts in the book where he says, like, totally, I will totally do this for you. If we're going on the process that this is either an entirely new world never affiliated with Earth, or it is a future world affiliated with Earth, why out of all the colloquialisms did totally stay for thousands of years? I can't grasp this. Personally, I feel like this book really needed some strong editing. I don't know how books were published in the 1960s. I'm just saying that there are like instances where this book could have been heavily edited. I just feel like I know I've bitched about this already, but all of the instances where this omniscient narrator is in every single mind of every single character, like, I just feel like it's unnecessary, because sometimes they will say something like in this omniscient narration in their head, and then they'll just repeat it. I just don't get it. Like, on one of the pages, the Baron, who's like, I guess the bad guy of the story, he's telling his nephew something, blah blah blah, telling him a plan, and the nephew's like,
Ah, I see.
and then he goes,
Indeed. I hope you do see. I hope you do see how this is vital that it remains secret.
the guy goes,
I'll keep it a secret.
like, I think this is like a problem I have with the book in general. I feel like Frank Herbert really babied his readers, and it's like, we know this is a secret. This character is the bad guy. I'm sure he doesn't want his secrets released out into the wild, like, obviously. And then to just waste space on the page to say, like, I hope you do see twice, and then to say, I hope you see how secret it is, and then have the person say 2 lines down, it must be kept a secret. Like, then there's another instance where things are repeated on several times. So the Baron says, like,
I only have one requirement.
and he says,
Income?
and then the guy says,
Income?
like, he could have just explained. Anyways, as you can see, I'm getting quite frustrated with this book. We are halfway through, and like, yes, things have developed in the plot. Like I said, there are things happening. I understand what is happening. It feels like nothing happened. And that could be because for, I would say, about 200 pages, nothing did happen. So like, all these revelations that have happened in the basis of like betrayal and a death were all within 100 pages. So to me, it feels like over the course of 300 pages, nothing happened because nothing did. So I won't say I'm enjoying my experience. I'm really not. I will finish this, but the pull to DNF this book is so strong. It is so strong right now. Every time I pick up this book, I don't want to, and I find that really shitty, because I think for a book that is so revered, or at least acknowledged as a very important book to sci-fi, you would think it would be better Like Lord of the Rings, okay? Like Lord of the Rings is hard to read. I'm not saying it's an easy way to read. And I'm not saying that Tolkien doesn't drag on pages and pages and pages to describe a tree. He does do that. But I think Tolkien has an overarching theme in his book and an overarching plot that is extremely important to the reader and develops his characters enough that readers care. And so readers will go through reading those pages of songs and reading through those descriptions of friendship because they know that there's an overall message to the book. With this, I can't see it. I can't see what the theme is. I can't see what it's doing thematically, and it's bothering me. Ah. Hello, here is your update for the third quarter of Dune. Did I update a lot this quarter? Probably not. I think my opinions stand the same and I don't really think they're gonna change. The treatment of women was only further developed negatively. It seems that women in this book are mainly used as romantic interests, concubine interests, nothing of value. Even Jessica is such a underutilized character. I think on Frank Herbert's part, I think once Duke Leto died, Frank Herbert could have really utilized Jessica as a leader, and he like really doesn't. The writing is still atrocious. There's even a line in here where one of the characters is like,
They killed your family, man.
there is like no other indication in this book that it was written well into the 1960s, 70s, is that the language in here is just incredibly dated. And I think for a book that wants to pride itself in being science fiction and taking place possibly in the future, to have words like totally and man written in the book really dates itself. We are in the minds of every possible character of this book. Frank Herbert switches perspectives quite frequently in the middle of paragraphs, in the middle of like multiple sentences. I understand maybe I'm being nitpicky. Like I understand that perhaps sentence structure and writing is far more important to me than it would be to other people. I don't understand how this can be perceived as like the sci-fi to end all sci-fi. Like this is really perpetuated as a strong sci-fi novel and I just really don't think it's holding up. I'm not enjoying my time at all. I wish I could say that I was slightly enjoying this story, but I'm not. And I feel bad saying that because I know a lot of people do like this book. If you do, I really would like to know why. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm not even trying to be funny. I really want to know why you like this book. So I have about 150 pages left, which in Dune time could be one day, it could be a month. There's no in between. I really don't know. I can see sort of where the story is going. And I also watched, I think I mentioned this in a previous clip, but I have watched the trailer several times since reading this book, and the trailer looks like a completely different movie. Like I don't know her. I don't know her.
Do you know J-Lo at this point?
The audience member said it.
It looks so good, and I think that might be an attest to the actors. I'm honestly a bit nervous about the movie. Could Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet really help us? I don't know. I wish I had more confidence, but I can't say. That's your update for this. I'm miserable. I'm not enjoying my time. I can't wait to finish this. Hello. So you might hear the fridge in the background. Very sorry for this, but I wanted to give an update on Dune while I'm getting a sweet potato ready for my supper. I'm basically at the final stretch, the final quarter of the book. Today, so far, I've read 50 pages, so I'm at page 500. Honestly, I have to say that I quite enjoyed the last 50 pages that I read today. I feel like after 450 pages, the plot is kind of getting interesting. There were also some discussions on religion and how Paul is kind of this religious figure now in the Fremen society. And I thought that that was really fascinating, but I still have kind of a problem with the book because Because in this last portion, I don't know if like Frank Herbert had mentioned that the time passed, but I couldn't find any quotes on it. All of a sudden, we got to a part in the book where, kind of big spoilers, Paul and Jessica have been living with the Freemans for quite a bit of time. It's almost 2 to 3 years about where they've been with the Freemans, and there was no indication that time advanced. So for a book that took so long to get to that portion, all of a sudden time like jumped super quickly. And like, maybe you could correct me on this, but I really didn't see it. And what sucks about that is so much of Chani and Paul's relationship develop in that time. So they're actually having fairly interesting discussions. So Paul and Jessica are mentioning how much they like Chani, how she's a great person, yada, 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 but we never saw that on page. And this is a continuous thing with Dune that I really don't appreciate, is that things are told to us and never shown. We never saw Paul and Chani's relationship. Like, yes, at the beginning, we knew, like, I knew they were gonna get together for sure. Like, it was fairly obvious, but we never saw like why they end up liking each other. It's just like assumed that they're gonna get together because, as you know, every role a woman plays in this book is a concubine or has some sort of relationship with Paul, be it servant, mom, concubine. It feels so cheap to me that we spend so much time learning about the families in this world and learning about everything that's going on that led Paul to being with this tribe of people that he's clearly spent a lot of time with, but we never see this development. We never see him become the leader and become an important figure in this tribe, and it just felt so cheap to me. So I say, like, time seems to be skipped, or is it the drugs or actual time? Because at first I was a bit confused, because I'm like, oh, maybe because he takes the spices, he's able to see forwards and backwards in time, which is something that the Bene Gesserit women are able to do, and Paul has those within him because he's Jessica's son. And then here we learn on this page that Aaliyah, which is Jessica's daughter, has been born. And Jessica was pregnant in the last part of the novel. And now this daughter is at least 2 or 3 years old. So a lot of time has passed, and we're just supposed to expect and understand these relationships that I feel like got zero development. But anyways, we'll continue. So basically, Chani says,
I am the mother of thy firstborn.
which means that Chani is pregnant, and we're just supposed to accept it. And also, there's like no clear indication of their age besides like small sentences that I picked up on, and that's the only reason why I understood that time had passed. I think that's a really weak point on Frank Herbert, that we're just supposed to accept that time has passed when the majority of the novel passed within like 2 days or a week even. And then another thing just to bring up, the women in this novel. So this novel passes the Bechdel test. And if you don't know what the Bechdel test is, I would highly advise that you look it up. Essentially, it's just a test to say, do 2 women have a conversation that never mention a man? In all honesty, I want to say that it doesn't, but I have a feeling that at the beginning, Jessica and her conversations with her Reverend Mother, they do have some sort of conversation that I think does not relate to Paul. But honestly, I doubt it. I'm giving this book the benefit of the doubt. Just another portion is that, like I said before, the women in this book don't have anything else to do but be a relation to Paul, right? So basically, Paul's servant Hera says that she
Wants whatever is best for him.
So basically, Hera and Jessica are talking about Chani and her relationship with Paul, because Paul technically can't have a wife who is from this tribe. Like, she needs to be noble born. So Hera is saying, I
Pity Chani.
Jessica says,
What do you mean?
Hera says,
I know what you think of Chani. You think she's not a wife for your son.
Jessica settles and she's like,
Perhaps.
and then Hera goes,
You could be right, and if you are, you may find a surprising ally, Chani herself. She wants whatever is best for him.
so Chani doesn't really have like an agency. She's kind of just there for Paul. She loves Paul. She's obsessed with Paul. And although I can relate, because I think Chani's supposed to be 17 years old. So although I can relate at 17 to wanting to be whatever my boyfriend wants me to be, that's not, I think, a healthy representation. While I'm editing here, I do want to interject and say that I'm in no way saying that 17-year-olds can't be obsessed with a boy. We've all been there. I am in no way discouraging or suggesting that women can be whatever the hell they want to be. But what I am saying is that Frank Herbert set Chani up to be the opposite of what she was at the beginning of the novel, and resorted her to being just a surface level character like the rest of the women in the book. And then all of a sudden, Paul can ride worms. Anyways, so although this is interesting, it did bring up some points about religion and how Paul shouldn't be idolized as this kind of messiah figure. So before I explain that point, I want to say that I have been looking up things online because I do want to see what do people like about this book. So a lot of people were arguing that when people read this book at face value, they just take it how it is, and that might be why they don't like it. And what Frank Herbert was actually trying to do was to paint a picture of how we shouldn't have people like Paul in books as these messiah figures. However, he just created an entire book around a messiah figure, and if you read it at face value, that's what you're getting. So I want to give Frank the benefit of the doubt, but there's no actual discussions about that in the book, and he wouldn't write an entire series and an entire world surrounding a character if he didn't also feel that Paul was a messiah character. But anyways, I digress. So there is some conversations in this portion where they're talking about religion that I thought was really fascinating. Jessica doesn't like that people are giving him this religious relationship between him and their tribe. Jessica really doesn't appreciate that. She doesn't think that Paul should be this godlike figure. And I'm speaking ahead. I haven't read the last 100 pages, but while there is some discussion, Paul is still a messiah character and nothing negative has happened to Paul. So I can't help but kind of be like, I don't think that thesis is valid because it's not in the text. And so yes, there are lines sprinkled here and there. So far, this discussion around this topic has not been brought up at all. And I think that the fact that the last 150 pages are providing the most insight into this thesis and the most interesting discussion says something about the first 400 pages that could have easily been cut severely. So that's it. It was a better reading day. Like I said, I really did enjoy those discussions. I really did enjoy what was happening in the book, but there are still some negatives that annoy me, and there are still some problems in the world building, time building of the novel that don't make a lot of sense. I hope I made sense right now. So anyways, I'm going to cook these potatoes, and then I'm probably gonna make a nice quinoa salad. So see you when it's done, probably. Something just happened in this book, and I'm so upset. Hello, I finally finished Dune. This feels like an amazing feat. I would like to thank everyone who supported me. Thank you so much, but take it back. I think it's fairly obvious from the vlog that I did not enjoy my reading experience with Dune. And while it was looking promising at the end, the last 150 pages were really engaging and exciting, there was still a lot of it that I really didn't like. So if we just do some examples, I think I mentioned this yesterday, but there's a lot of inconsistencies within the timeline in the last 150 pages. We do jump 2 to 4 years even in between the previous part and this part. So there's a lot of inconsistencies there. A lot of things that just don't make sense. At one point on page 496, Paul is riding a worm all of a sudden, and it's never explained how he learned how to do that. It was never suggested previously that he was able to do that. So, make it a bit more exciting for us. There are never things that are fully explained in the book. So at another portion on page 518, Paul is saying, "It's obvious to me that you were ordered to seek out and destroy me. I'll warrant you were the one suggesting seeking spice in the deep desert." So there's a lot of things that Paul assumes and knows, and it's never explained if Paul knows these things because he's Bene Gesserit, if he's the Messiah, if he's just a duke and understands these political games. So there's things that are never fully explained because it's just he can do this because he can, and there's no reason for it. Again, a lot of switching perspectives within paragraphs. This I already bitched about, we know it. I actually truly believe that the last part of the novel could have been Frank Herbert's strongest portion of the novel, and a part of what could have made it exciting was actually showing readers the portions instead of telling them. And what I mean by that is there's a specific scene where Chani and Jessica are talking, and Jessica has to fill Chani in on the fact that Paul has been poisoned for 3 weeks. Where was that? Chani, along with the readers, is being told by Jessica that Paul has been poisoned for 3 weeks, but it's not like we followed Chani for several chapters, that she was our main perspective, and that's why we missed such a pivotal point. The perspectives within the chapters change so drastically within sentences that I don't understand why we were not there for probably a big moment in Paul's life. Like, he almost died. I think that's pretty important to show us, but no, we were told. It's almost like the worm portion, that all of a sudden Paul can do these things and we're told that Paul can do these things, but why wasn't this shown to readers? Why was this only told to readers and we're expected to believe this? Then once again, another pretty pivotal moment in the book when Paul's son dies, and Paul is not there for that. Chani isn't there for that, or at least Chani is not with Paul. And again, why are we being told these things and not shown? These are crucial to Paul as a character and something that affects him. And again, we're not being shown these things at all. We're just being told these facts. Another thing that really pissed me off, actually, at the end, Paul and his sister Aaliyah are separated and they are suddenly able to like speak telepathically. Basically, his sister Aaliyah kills the Baron. This is this villain who we've spent 600 pages with, and then his death is pushed to a mere sentence that says,
"Oh yes, I've killed our grandfather, the demented old baron. He had very little pain."
and so one of my notes over here, I just wrote, "Oh yes, I've just gone ahead and murdered the villain of the book without showing it to the readers at all." I really did try to look up positive reviews of this book because I really did want to understand what made this book so appealing to readers. A lot of people said it's an interesting discussion on religion, it's an interesting discussion on power and how it plays with power, and I think I brought this up in the last clip. But you can play with power and religion as much as you want, but if you don't make a conclusive argument, then you're not really discussing anything, you're just perpetuating the same trope. I wrote here towards the end of the book, I can kind of see here the overpowered lord and how Herbert is commenting on it, but readers hate Paul's enemies. So even the fact that Paul's enemies are questioning him and Herbert is painting him in a more negative light by screaming at his enemies, by acting in this aggressive manner, readers have spent 600 pages where Paul is being idolized. Therefore, if you're going to make the point to question his authority and question his power at the end of the book, readers already hate the enemies. They don't like Paul's enemies. They've identified with your main character. Therefore, you're not really making a point in any way. Paul is idolized in the book because you've made him idolized in the book. And if there's no commentary on that, no repercussions, no consequences for Paul for the way he acts, you're not really discussing anything. And then finally, listen, I spoke a tooth and a nail in this vlog about women and how they're represented in this book. Chani and Jessica deserve more rights. It's incredible how mistreated they are in this book. And then the last paragraph on the book, this is how the book chooses to die on. So they need to create an inevitable peace between Paul and the emperor, and therefore in order to do that, Paul will marry the emperor's daughter. And I shit you not, the last paragraph on the book, Jessica is informing Chani that, see this princess standing there so haughty and confident? They say she has pretensions of a literary nature. Let us hope she finds solace in these things, because she'll have little else. Think on it, Chani. That princess will have the name, yet she'll live as less than a concubine, never to know a moment of tenderness from a man to whom she's bound. While we, Chani, we who carry the name of concubine, history will call us wives. And that is the last line of the book, tearing down the only 3 women you've had in this book, referring to the fact that women in this world only have 2 roles, which is concubine or wife, essentially, or Bene Gesserit, but they're not even developed in any sort of fashion. I think the Bene Gesserit were the most interesting characters. I'm not going to go on and on about the mistreatment of women. I think it's fairly obvious my point, what I'm implying, and that's how I felt about the book. I think this book is poorly written. So let me discuss what I think people enjoy about the book. I think it does have a sort of interesting world, interesting political dynamics, political intrigue, but again, I don't think those 2 points are as developed as they could have been in this book. I think Frank Herbert spends a lot of time showing and not telling to readers. He really holds readers' hands, and I think that was really prevalent from the beginning of the novel to the end of the novel. It does not end. Frank Herbert really shows you everything and makes sure that you understand what he's talking about, when I think he should have given his readers a little bit of more credit. And the discussions surrounding power and religion and the treatment of people and how we place them into these godlike positions was interesting but not developed enough to have a discussion about it. I'm really disappointed. I really wanted to like this book. Obviously, I bought the really nice edition. I really thought I was gonna like this. I love sci-fi, but this just was not it. I want to thank my co-host for this read along, Daniela. I don't know how she feels about it. We're gonna discuss it later. I want to thank everyone who did want to join in the read along and read this with us. I hope you liked it more than I do. I really hope everyone who watches this vlog understands where I'm coming from and understands why I didn't like this book, but still would love to have a discussion down below to understand why exactly you enjoyed this book. Let me know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell if you want to see more content from me. I don't know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Bye!